Primal Groudon and Kyogre, Origin Dialga and Palkia, G-Max Toxtricity and more will be available as part of the Global Go Wild Area event. And in this video, I will be going through the best ways that you can take them down, including the best counters and some budget options. So the event takes place globally on November 23rd and 24th between 10 AM and 6:15 PM local time each day. So starting off, which Pokemon are available in raids and in max battles. So in 3-star raids on Saturday will be Snorlax wearing a studded jacket, Luxray and Scolipede. And on the Sunday will be Snorlax wearing a studded jacket, Venusaur and Electivire. In 4-star raids for both days and debuting globally will be Toxtricity in both its low-key and amped forms. In 5-star raids both days will be Origin form Dialga and Origin form Palkia, which will of course have a chance at coming with their signature moves Roar of Time and Spatial Rend respectively, which do have adventure effects, which are effects that can be used outside of battle. And in primal raids on both days will be Primal Groudon and Kyogre. For the max battles, in 1-star max battles will be Max Drillbur, Max Toxtricity in both forms will be available in tier 4 max battles, and also Max Excadrill will be available, but it hasn't been confirmed which tier it will be, but I imagine it will be tier 3 or tier 4. And lastly, in 6-star max battles will be Gigantamax Toxtricity. But how good are these raid bosses, and which are most worth using your raid passes and max particles on? So for the 3-star raid bosses, Snorlax wearing a studded jacket will be a good one to pick up, because this costume variant and its shiny will be very rare outside of this event, if it even returns at all. So it is worth picking up at least one of these while you can. Snorlax is also not a bad option for the Master League, where it is ranked 110, but really you will mostly just want it because it's a rare variant of Snorlax. For Luxray, Scolipede, Venusaur and Electivire, I wouldn't really bother raiding these unless you really need them, because all of them will be available in the wild as mighty Pokemon, which will have a 13-13-13 IV floor, and they'll be caught at a higher level between level 40 and 50. Luxray would be mostly worth picking up for candy for its shadow form, which is the 12th best electric type raid attacker. This is a similar story for Electivire, where its shadow version is the 6th best electric type raid attacker. Venusaur will be worth picking up, but mostly from the wild, and Mega Venusaur is the 2nd best grass type attacker and the 6th best poison type attacker. Venusaur is also ranked 76 in the Ultra League. And to be at its best in both aspects of the game, it does want legacy move Frenzy Plant, which will be available from evolving into Venusaur or from catching a Venusaur during this event. For the 4-star raids, we do have the debut of Toxtricity in both of its forms, but I would recommend going after the Gigantamax version if you can, because it will be more powerful as a G-Max Pokemon, and also Gigantamax and Dynamax Pokemon can be used in the same way as regular Pokemon as well as in max battles, so they are more valuable than the non-Dynamax and Gigantamax versions. However, if you don't have many people to raid with, then it might be worth doing the Dynamax battle instead, because it will be easier to do. And if you don't have anyone else to raid with, or you can't get out and play, then I would recommend the regular 4-star raid version, because it will be remote raidable, whereas max battles are local only. Max Toxtricity will be the first max Pokemon to be able to use the electric and poison max moves, Max Lightning and Max Ooze, meaning it will be a great Pokemon to have to use against G-Max Charizard and Blastoise when they return to the game. And G-Max Toxtricity will have the G-Max move G-Max Stun Shock, which is an electric type attack, and it will have that attack regardless of its fast attack. Toxtricity will have 224 attack, 140 defense and 181 stamina, and it will have a max CP of 2941. With its current moveset, it won't have much meta relevance outside of max battles as a raid attacker, and it doesn't seem like it'll have much play in Go Battle League either. And before you do max or G-Max Toxtricity battles, I would highly recommend doing some Max Drillbur or Max Excadrill battles first, because they will be the best counters for Toxtricity, because Toxtricity is both an electric and poison type, making it double weak to ground type attacks. Outside of max battles, Excadrill is the 16th best ground type attacker and the 8th best as a shadow, so well worth picking up the max version even if you aren't that interested in max battles, because they can be used outside of them as well. Origin Dialga is well worth raiding because it is ranked 30 in the Master League, and it's the 5th best steel type attacker and the 8th best dragon type attacker. Not only that, it does have the chance of coming with its signature move Roar of Time that has an adventure effect, which is particularly helpful if you're going after Galarian birds. This is because you can use it to pause the timer for items such as incense, daily incense, star pieces and lucky eggs. This effect does cost 5,000 Stardust and 5 Dialga candy for 6 minutes, and you can spend more to stack this up to 2 hours, and you can use it repeatedly to increase it up to 24 hours total. And Origin Palkia is also definitely worth raiding because it is one of the best Pokemon in the Master League at rank 2 2, and it's the 4th best dragon type attacker in the game. And again, this Pokemon does have a chance of coming with its signature move Spatial Rend, which also has an adventure effect. This effect increases the distance at which you can encounter Pokemon. This effect does cost 5,000 Stardust and 5 Palkia candy for 10 minutes, and again it can be increased up to 2 hours and then used again to get a total of 24 hours if you have the resources for it. And generally the candy for both Palkia and Dialga are very valuable because of their use for adventure effects. And whilst these Pokemon are some of the most useful in the game, there are 2 other raid bosses available that are also well worth going after, and these will be both Primal Groudon and Kyogre. Primal Groudon is the best ground type attacker in the game, and Groudon itself is ranked 23 in the Master League, although it is worth noting that it does want legacy move Precipice Blades to be at its best and Fire Punch for the Master League as well. These moves however won't be available when caught from these raids, so they will require elite charge TMs to get. But Precipice Blades in particular is the kind of move I would consider being a good target for your elite charge TMs, because it is very useful for both raid attacking and Go Battle League. And Primal Kyogre on the other hand is the best water type raid attacker, and Kyogre itself is ranked 54 in the Master League. And again, it does want legacy move Origin Pulse to be at its best, which will require an elite charge TM to get, but it is a good target for an elite TM. But with that said, what are the best counters for these raid and max battle Pokemon? Firstly, Origin Palkia has a raid CP of 56,872, and the 100% IVs are 2367 and 2958 boosted in rainy and windy weather. It can be shiny from these raids, and it is weak to dragon and fairy type attacks. The best mega counters for it are Rayquaza, God of War, Salamence, Garchomp and Latios. The best shadow counters are Salamence, Dragonite, Latios, Garchomp, Alolan Exeggutor and Latias. The best legendary counters are Origin Palkia itself, Origin Dialga, Rayquaza, Dialga, Palkia and Tapu Koko. And the best budget counters are Haxorus, Salamence, Dragonite, Garchomp, God of War and Togekiss. This raid can be done with 2 trainers if you have the best counters at high levels and use party power. Otherwise, I would recommend 3+ trainers. And for Origin Dialga, it has a raid CP of 54,074 and 100% IVs are 2337 and 2921 boosted in snowy and windy weather. Again, it can be shiny from these raids and it is weak to fighting and ground type attacks. The best mega and primal counters are Lucario, Groudon, Garchomp, Heracross, Blaziken and Alakazam. The best shadow counters are Groudon, Excadrill, Conkeldurr, Rhyperior, Mamoswine and Garchomp. The best legendary and mythical counters are Terrakion, Keldeo, Landorus in its Therian form, Groudon, Cobalion and Landorus in its incarnate form. And the best budget counters are Lucario, Excadrill, Conkeldurr, Hisuian Decidueye, Mamoswine and Machamp. Again, this raid can be done with 2 trainers if you have the best counters at high levels and use party power. Otherwise, I would recommend having 3+ trainers. For Primal Groudon, it does have a raid CP of 75,820 and 100% IVs for Groudon are 2351 and 2939 boosted in sunny weather. Primal Groudon is a fire and ground type and therefore it is weak to ground and it has a double weakness to water, so water type counters will be the best here. So the best mega and primal counters are Kyogre, Swampert, Blastoise, Gyarados, Slowbro and Garchomp. The best shadow counters are Kyogre, Gyarados, Swampert, Feraligatr, Crawdaunt and Empoleon. The best legendary counters are Kyogre, Origin Palkia and Palkia. And the best budget counters are Galizapod, Primarina, Swampert, Gyarados, Greninja and Kingler. This raid can be done with 2 trainers if you have the best counters at high levels, but I would recommend taking a 3rd trainer to make it easier. It will cost 400 primal energy to revert Groudon for the first time, but afterwards you can walk any of your Groudon to get more energy. Next we have Primal Kyogre, which has a raid CP of 75,820 and 100% IVs for Kyogre are 2351 and 2939 boosted in rainy weather. Primal Kyogre is a pure water type and so it is weak to grass and electric type attacks. The best mega counters are Sceptile, Venusaur, Rayquaza, Manectric and Ampharos. The best shadow counters are Raikou, Electivire, Sceptile, Venusaur, Tangrowth and Magnezone. The best legendary, mythical and ultra beast counters are Zarude, Kartana, Xurkitree, Zekrom, Shaymin in its sky form and Raikou. And the best budget counters are Rillaboom, Meowscarada, Electivire, Chestnut, Roserade and Venusaur. This raid is one of the more difficult ones overall, so it will take at least 3 trainers to beat. It will cost 400 primal energy to revert Kyogre for the first time, but afterwards you can walk any of your Kyogre to get more energy. And for the max battles, Max Excadrill is a ground and steel type, so it is weak to fire, fire, fighting, ground, and water type attacks. It can be shiny when caught from these battles, and the 100% IV will be 1853. The best counters in terms of damage will be G-Max or Dynamax Charizard with Fire Spin and Blast Burn. Max Excadrill itself will also be a good counter as well with Mud Slap and Scorching Sands, and you could use Max Inteleon with Water Gun and Surf. In terms of more defensive counters, I would recommend Gigantamax Blastoise or Dynamax Blastoise with Water Gun and Hydro Cannon. In particular, Blastoise could be a good Pokemon to use to charge up the max meter first, then swap it into one of your higher damage dealing counters during the D-Max and G-Max countdown window. Then you could either try to deal some damage with a max attacking move and swap back to Blastoise, or you could stack Max Shield and continue on with the damage dealer. And one of the best reasons to battle Max Drillbur or Max Excadrill is to use it against G-Max Toxtricity. So for G-Max Toxtricity, it is an electric and poison type, so it is weak to psychic and it has a double weakness to ground type attacks like I mentioned previously. So I would highly recommend using ground type counters and attacks. It can be shiny when caught from these battles, and the 100% IV is 1486. So the best counter will be Max Excadrill with Mudslip and Scorching Sands. You could also use Max Metagross with Zen Headbutt and Earthquake, Max Rillaboom with Scratch and Earth Power, Max Drillbur with Mudslap and Drill Run if you don't have enough candy to evolve into Excadrill, and you could use Gigantamax or Dynamax Gengar with Lick and Psychic. Gengar and Metagross in particular will be helpful defensively because they resist poison type attacks. But even with these counters, these battles are not likely to be easy, especially if you don't have many trainers to do them with. Gigantamax battles are some of the toughest in the game and generally take 10 plus trainers to beat on average. However, if your counters and their max moves are powered up and you adopt certain strategies, you will most likely be able to take down G-Max Toxtricity with less than 10 players, similar to Gigantamax Gengar that was recently in max battles. And in particular, G-Max Toxtricity has a double weakness which generally makes them a little bit easier to beat. But with fewer people, communication and team composition are very important. So it's worth trying to have some communication with at least the people that are on your team of 4, so you can discuss which roles each of you will take on within the group. For example, you could have somebody with powered up Max Spirit to heal the group periodically. You could also have somebody that uses Max Guard, and this will taunt the boss to attack it specifically and take on more attacks from the boss. And whoever has the best damage dealing counters can be the main damage dealer, focusing on damage only. Remember, if you do see this icon above your Pokemon's head, it means it's being targeted for an attack which you can swipe to avoid and take less damage. There are 2 types of attacks that a max battle boss will use. One targets you specifically, and one is a bigger attack that hits multiple Pokemon at the same time. Also, make sure to swipe into Dynamax icons on the battlefield to fill up your max meter more quickly. And even if all of your Pokemon are defeated, you can still help out your teammates. You can do this by continuing to tap the screen to cheer on your teammates. This will make their max meter fill up more quickly so they can use max moves more frequently. Lastly, it's worth noting that you can back out of the battle and re-lobby to change the moveset of the max battle boss to make it a little bit easier for you if you happen to get a particularly strong attack. And with that said, if you do want to know the full details and tips for the Go Wild Area event, then I recommend checking out this video on the screen now, and I'll catch you in the next one.